Holy cow. Every cookie she touches actually crumbles into a million pieces. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, I didn't think I would be saying this today, have the biggest Hollywood flop in history. Cookie Queens is the biggest box office disaster ever. And I'm going to explain why and take you through the figures, but effectively, the per-screen delivery for this film is way less than $1,000, making it completely not viable for any more cinemas to take it on. And remember, this is a couple who had international publicity around this movie, and they could not make more than $800 per theatre. The humiliation has got even worse, though, because the line that the mainstream media is picking up on, and I don't blame them, by the way, is the fact that Cookie Queens has been beaten at the box office by a cat video compilation.
Right then, if you thought the Sussex Hollywood venture was printing money, sit back, because this one is an absolute masterpiece in commercial disaster. Harry and Meghan's shiny new cinema documentary Cookie Queens is currently suffering what industry analysts call a historic box office collapse. Subscribe right now if you want your daily dose of royal chaos before Montecito sends out another press release.
2026, a compilation of the best cat videos submitted by fans that landed in 10th place in the box office charts. Harry and Meghan's Cookie Queens is outside the top 10 at number 13. So I've really enjoyed this. I've been crunching the figures, and I am going to be completely honest, the total box office has slightly increased to $350,000, 771. But when you look at the pre-theatre average, it is now at just $786. The movie ranking number 13 on the box office chart despite massive publicity, and that is simply not good enough, of course, for a film that had this much hype and had these two human beings behind it. Indeed, the docu-film about Girl Scouts is being trashed by Hollywood insiders. One industry source telling the Times newspaper, not taking the good name of the world's #1 cat video festival in vain, this is by any measure a pretty pitiful return. Roadside Attractions, the independent distributor responsible for Cookie Queens, was more positive about the opening. Well, of course, a spokesperson told US entertainment website Deadline that it had performed well with groups of current and former Girl Scouts. Well, very small groups. We're encouraged by the response, they say, and believe the film has a long life ahead of it as it continues to reach its many audiences. But it was not enough to beat the Cat Video Fest 2026, they say. Other high-profile documentaries have performed better, boosted by significant marketing from their major studio backers. Melania, Amazon MGM's profile of the First Lady, Melania Trump, took $7 million in its opening weekend in the US, despite poor reviews after extensive marketing. And Baz Luhrmann's documentary, Epic Elvis Presley in Concert, took $3.22 million in its opening weekend. Louise Tutt, deputy editor of film industry magazine Screen Daily, said that Cookie Queens was hampered by a small marketing budget and changing audience habits. Audiences increasingly preferred to watch documentaries on streaming services at home rather than at the cinema, she said. It's hard to judge how successful it was to attach the Sussexes as honorific executive producers, given how tough the US box office is for any documentary that isn't a music or concert film. She pointed to the poor box office performance of Mr. Nobody Against Putin, which won an Oscar for Best Documentary in March, but grossed just $4,340 on its opening weekend in the US. But I'm sorry. Spare me that nonsense. This is Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Every mainstream media outlet have been talking about Cookie Queens. This is publicity that the Putin documentary could only imagine garnering, and still no one showed up.
Here is where it gets interesting. The documentary pulls in a staggering, eye-watering per-theatre average of just $786. Total earnings sit at a microscopic $350,000. To put that in perspective, Cookie Queens lands at number 13 at the box office, getting soundly beaten by a compilation of viral internet cat videos sitting comfortably at number 10. You read that correctly. Feline YouTube clips are outgrossing royal Hollywood royalty. Stay with me, because that is not even the crazy part.
Seen projects which aren't personal, no one cares because they don't have the skills to create the magic which would make them fly. The Sussexes should stick to groceries. It worked for the king with his Duchy originals, and accept that when it comes to telly, they are a one-hit wonder. Their own soap opera is the only one anybody wants to watch. Legendary royal reporter Robert Jobson, author of the biography, the autobiography Walking with Kings, and of course the man behind the brilliant new Substack, joins me now. I mean, Jobbo, look, we have spoken in recent weeks and recent months about a whole load of flops from the Sussexes, but this is box office poison. This is going to damage their chances of ever getting a Hollywood deal again, because all of that publicity, Jobbo, and it's not even making the top 10. It's at number 13, and it's taking less than $800 per cinema. I mean, you cannot get more of a disaster. And by the way, what does Hollywood care about more than anything else, Jobbo? They pretend to care about morals. They pretend to care about the woke ideology. No. Hollywood cares about money, box office receipts. And that's why I don't think Harry and Meghan should ever have done this. The latest bombshells from Harry and Meghan that the Montecito Mafia and the rest of the media are desperate to hide. Subscribe right now for the real story with zero spin and zero censorship.
Oh, it's a huge error. I mean, the cookie crumbles, as you said right in the beginning there. It's absolutely crumbled. I mean, I can't believe that they've got anybody around them who, I can't believe they've got any advisors at all, because they simply go ahead and do whatever the hell they want. And this was going to be a flop from the beginning. As that, totally correct assessment put it, the only thing they've been any good at is flogging their whales, telling their story about their inside story about the royals, which they got their money for in the first instance. I think ever since you had them in the South Park, we want our privacy. That is how everybody views them. And and in terms of them flogging their wares that way, they've lost their traction because they've been frozen out of the royals in many ways. And now, of course, they're desperately trying to inveigle their way back in, so they've got something else to sell. But this is a disaster. I think that they must realise that, and to try and come back from this in a place where money talks is going to be very, very difficult, I think.
It really is. And Jobbo, the promotional tour was everywhere. But again, I don't really think it's producing any good moments. At this time, it feels like the more we see of Meghan and Harry, the less we like them. And I just want to give one example that I picked out. And this was where I think, yet again, Meghan Markle is exposed in a major lie. And not enough people are talking about this, because, Jobbo, you'll remember one of her big moans about leaving the British royal family was this claim, and it was a lie. It was a lie that they didn't let her wear colour. Do you remember that? It was this thing of, I had, the Queen, the late Queen, the horrible late Queen, how dare she, Jobbo, had to be in the bright colours, and I had to be in the tonal, sort of the beige clothing. Oh, guess what, Jobbo? That was her choice, as she has now admitted in this video, because that's how she likes to dress. Look at this.
Which Girl Scout cookie best describes your personality?
Oh, trefoil. It's classic and classic.
I can see trefoil for you.
It's like classic. It's sweet. Also, it's all the same color, and I like tonal dressing. It's the worst answer in the world.
I mean,
for years, the narrative tells us the media is out to get them, or that audiences are just switching over to streaming services. But the cold, hard metrics tell a completely different story. Every mainstream outlet hands them millions in free publicity, yet when the doors open, nobody buys a ticket. Industry insiders are openly calling them a drag on every project they touch, suggesting they stick to jam and groceries because as content creators they look entirely talentless. You're not going to believe this next...
We broke the story about them leaving and Megxit in the first place. This is what they now think they can achieve back in the UK. That's why the security has been such a huge point for them, because they think if they come back to the UK, they'll get the same trappings they had before Megxit, which is the full Scotland Yard protection. And they somehow seem to think that nothing's happened in between time. But it has. The people in the UK are going to find it most people anyway, are going to find it almost impossible to accept them. And it's their wreckage and their mess that they've made of it since they left, will only reflect very badly upon the royal family if they are accepted back. If the king allows them back, I think it's going to be reflect very badly upon him and his judgment. And this is probably why William and Catherine are completely steering a different path away from them, because I probably think that William has seen the writing on the wall and sees what's going to be happening. But this will
So, what do
tarnish
you
the
think is happening,
monarchy.
Jobbo? Because Rebecca English, who is the head of the Royal Rota, and a lot of people assume that at times she almost acts as like a surrogate spokesperson for the British royal family, is trying to insist that even after the departure of Sir Clive Alderton, which is likely going to see Theo Rycroft come in, someone who has been much more keen, seemingly, to find a way for the royal family to break bread with Harry and Meghan. She's saying, no, there still will be no half in and half out arrangement because the king doesn't want one.
Well, if the king doesn't want that, then the problem is the messages is been put out are mixed messages, because we've been gradually had two small meetings. Yes, they were quite short meetings initially with Harry and just him and Harry together, and now we had this family high tea at Highgrove. Well, whatever way you look at it, if you do not want this half in half out, you're certainly giving that impression that you will consider it. Now, I understand he had his head was he was being pushed into a corner by his son, saying that the grandchildren want to see you. But there's been a slow creep in what Harry and Meghan are trying to achieve, which is effectively to be after their failures financially themselves and trying to monetize the royal family. They're probably thinking, well, we're trying to get back in now, because we at least we had the security of the property that we would have. We'd have security paid for, and we'd have a role to play. But if they do believe that, they're missing the point about where the royal family was in 2018, 2019.
The hypocrisy train keeps rolling right on schedule. Remember when Meghan claimed the royal family forced her into dull beige tonal clothing? Fast forward to the promotional tour and she's actively raving about tonal dressing being classic and sweet. Then there's the security narrative. While demanding high-level taxpayer security due to threat levels, close friends are simultaneously dropping their exact holiday location tags all over social media. So why does this matter? Because the commercial currency is officially running out. Having spent years railing against the press, the legal system and the monarchy while monetizing their royal titles, they now face the ultimate irony. Any attempt to creep back into palace life for financial stability or security perks creates an absolute constitutional optical nightmare for Buckingham Palace. They systematically destroyed the exact brand capital that made them valuable in the first place. If this made sense of the madness, hit that subscribe button for your daily royal updates, and I'll see you in the next one.
Yes, exactly.
And to
that
pick
don't
Buckingham
have
Palace
the symbolism
crazy.
attached.
And it's the
Exactly.
symbolism, but they're not listening. Whatever, I mean, I think maybe Clive's listening, and that may be a reason why the man that Harry labelled quite rudely the Wasp, is actually reacting his way. I think that Harry's done more damage. I don't think he quite realizes how much damage he has done to the royal family and his wife too. I just always think back, and so many people that subscribe, my subscribers on the Substack too, they come back to me and say they can't forget that deep bow and that curtsy and the mocking of the late Queen, and they don't forgive it. And
I will never forgive it. There we go. I'll never forgive it. And he just sat there.
And it was just pure, really, that was really appalling. And I also know, that when they went over there, the king went out of his way, who was Prince of Wales at the time, but he went out of his way to make sure money was paid to them to keep them afloat, etc. So they did go out their way, and I think that he doesn't. He thinks, I think, now the Queen is sadly passed, that he can inveigle his way back in by just persuading his father to do everything he wants. The difference is his father's now the king, and so every time that he gives territory, if you like, to Harry and bows to what Harry wants, he's actually eroding the position of the constitutional monarch. because that you can't, you can't just be par. He is the king. And the king comes with the territory that you have to then, everything you do will be more scrutinized and has an impact, not only on your reign, but on the future reign of his son, who will be King William. Now, that is a problem because, I think that what's going on here is we have a king who's living with cancer, doesn't want conflict. Nobody wants conflict. He does, at least of all the king. And I think, in all sadness, I think that Harry, he may want to spend more time with his father whilst his father's in this estate, but he's sort of playing him a little, I think, to say the least, and it's leaving the monarchy as an institution exposed to these two people that have just abused their privilege far too much.
Indeed. Now, Jobbo, speaking of King Charles, I do want to discuss all of these new claims that are circulating about his marriage to Queen Camilla. You are, of course, the man who has covered that relationship for decades, broke the story of their engagements. What we're going to do is head over to Substack as the Royal Uncancelled After Show continues. You can join Jobbo and I there. Obviously, subscribe to his brilliant Robert Jobson Substack and mine too. www.outspoken.live, where the conversation will continue. And of course, we are totally outside the mainstream media, so I would love your support there. Dan Wootton Outspoken is your no spin, no bias, no censorship outlet for independent news. We have no big tech backing or billionaires pulling my strings, but that does mean I need your support. So please hit subscribe on YouTube, turn on the notification bell, and subscribe to Dan Wootton Outspoken on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It's totally free, but allows me to continue my promise to always keep fighting.